Welcome back to everyone who knows what they're about to watch, and for those who don't, I'm making a game, a 2D brutal shooter all by myself, minus combat-like, and so on. This is a 4th public build, which you can download right now on my itch.io page. And if you see this panel pop up, then don't worry. Here it says that the game was flagged for suspicious activity, that being me traveling the world very frequently, as in I use the VPN. The reason being that it is the only way I can upload the game files on itch.io, and I'm currently living in a place that is, well, kinda controversial at the moment. But if you're still skeptical, well, then you can wait for the game to release on Steam, but that's not gonna happen for another year or so. By the way, this public build and all the public builds after that will no longer have password protection. You're welcome. With that bullshit out of the way, let's get into the new stuff. The first thing on the chopping block was the weapon punch. It looked like ass and didn't have many uses, so a much better idea came to mind: replace it with a kick. This way you can do a lot more, like kicking open doors, kicking barrels, kicking vents, kicking with grenades, and all of that no matter if your hands are busy or not. And of course I added movement tech to it, that being a small boost upwards if you kick an enemy mid-air. This also works with melee weapons, by the way, so you can combine both of them to get even higher. But if you played the previous builds, you might be asking, how can I kick with a melee weapon? Doesn't the F key make you do a block? And to that I say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. After having my friends playtest the game, I noticed that having different actions bound to the F key based on weapons was confusing as fuck. Firearms would do a kick and melee weapons a block. But since the block was pretty much never used after the very first enemy encounter, people, having formed a habit or a muscle memory where F equaled kick, were passing it constantly, resulting in their melee weapon blocking when they were expecting a kick instead. So I just straight up removed it and made it so F was only used for the kick on all weapons and nothing else. Thinking about it more, the melee block really wasn't a necessary feature, since the plan for the game is to be fast, turning more and more into a power fantasy Terraria modded boss fight with every chapter. So having to stop and wait to parry or block a melee attack really slows the flow of the game down. It would only make sense if the game was melee only, or enemies were more arcade-like, having clear designs and attack patterns, signaling their attacks with a distinct noise or a flash, like in Dead Cells for example. It is still a fast-paced melee game, but you can parry attacks without having to slow down, unless you're doing a tanky shield build. Disgusting. So yeah, this would not work for my humanoid enemies, since they are, well, humanoids. They're supposed to be pretty chaotic and kinda unpredictable. But you might be asking again, the shield unit is such a menace now. Before, the easiest way of dealing with him was parry. What do we do now? Just kick. The next thing that I remade is grenades. Previously they worked like the current Tarkov. You first had to equip it, pull the pin out, aim and throw, which is again a pretty slow process for a fast-paced game. So I evolved like Tarkov, but in the opposite direction. Now you just have to hold and release the grenade key. The pin mechanic has stayed the same, as in you cannot put it back, and if you don't throw the grenade away in time, it will explode in your hands. And the shrapnel has stayed as well, although I had to nerf the damage on the M67 as it was too deadly at long distances for both the player and the enemies. The grenade key has also changed. The 3rd slot is now reserved for a melee weapon, and instead there is a 4th and a 5th slot. The 4th slot is for tactical grenades, like in Call of Duty, this being your flashbangs, smokes, EMPs, and the 5th slot is for offensive grenades. Currently there are 3 of them. The remake of M67, which used to be the size of a fucking ball before, the M84, your classic CSGO flashbang / stun grenade, which stuns you and enemies up close, and blinds you if you are facing the explosion, producing a cool camera lens damage effect. And the last one is the EMP grenade. It is used to stun robotic enemies for a long period of time. This one is currently not present in any of the levels of the campaign, but it is fully functional. You can play with it and a bunch of other stuff using the debug menu, where you can spawn entities, weapons, give yourself cosmetics, and break the game by setting the engine time scale to 0. I also added a new unit. He's still pretty much the same humanoid, but heavily armored, has more HP, and throws grenades at you from time to time. And there's a chance for this guy to bomb rush you if he is low on health. Also, you can punch away grenades with a melee weapon, and if that grenade hits an enemy, it will bounce up and its fuse time will be decreased so that it detonates right in the enemy's face. But I wanna talk about melee weapons for a bit more. You see, I am trying to make them more fun and useful, but I think it is pretty obvious at this point that they need to be completely reworked. Currently, I'm thinking of doing something similar to Dead Cells and Terraria Valhalla mode. So I wanted to ask you if you know of any games that are 2D, side-scrollers, have fast-paced melee combat, and maybe, preferably, also allow you to aim the melee attacks. Yes, I'm asking you if you know any games like that. Type it down in the comments, and while you're there, you might as well press the cool buttons and maybe some links so you could join my epic Discord community. There's also another way you can help me make this game better – reviews. When you try to close the game for the first time, a pop-up will appear, asking you to leave a review on a Google form page. The form has pretty simple questions, like how difficult a certain thing is, what levels did you play, etc. And I encourage you to visit this page and actually leave a review. Playtesting is one of the most important tools in game dev, which can be confirmed by Valve, for example. They playtest their shit constantly, with tons of people.
But the difference is that Valve is obsessed with it, to an almost religious degree. Ambinder calls playtesting the most important part of the game development process. Gabe Newell calls it our secret weapon. And a designer who joined the studio in 2018 said, "I always heard that Valve does a lot of playtesting before I came to work here, and I was not prepared for the amount of playtesting this company does."
Because I'm the guy who made all of this, I can beat all the levels with my eyes closed, no problem. But since the game punishes your mistakes pretty hard, it will be difficult in some moments for other players. I will of course add difficulty levels sometime in the future, but I still need to know how the real player, you, experiences the game. And if you want to playtest new features earlier and support me at the same time, then you can subscribe to my Boosty. It's the same thing as Patreon, but this one actually works for me. Every month I release a supporter build containing everything I've made at that point, with a special level to test new features on. You also gain access to a secret channel in my Discord server, where I post behind the scenes content. Although you have to ping or DM me if you want me to give you the role, since the bot doesn't fucking work sadly. The link to my Boosty page and the Discord server will be in the description. And now for the thing that I can talk for hours about. Performance. The battle is never ending, but this time I actually found the reason for the majority of lags in the game. It was very difficult to find as it didn't pop up at all in the debugger. I came up with a tool that works as an anomaly detector for physics lag, bullet casings. I noticed that in some places every time I shoot and the bullet casing spawns, there would be a lag spike, and a very noticeable one at that. Right there I knew this was a physics issue, so I started turning off random stuff, and when I disabled tile maps, the FPS went to the moon. So let me tell you why this is the case. So currently in Godot 4.4, every single tile of the tile map is a collision object. Yes, every little square, every little piece of a level is a collision object, which makes it so that we have thousands of them active all the time, which in turn stresses the physics engine a shit ton. I'm currently waiting for Godot 4.5 to come out, as it will introduce a logical fix to this, where groups of tiles will be turned into a single collision mesh, thus reducing the number of active collision objects. But I knew I had one thing I could try to at least lessen the impact of this problem. The solution to this being the tile map slicer. It's a simple tool script I wrote that uses a rectangle collision shape to define the area that needs to be cut out, and then by pressing a button, it literally cuts that part out of the main tile map and puts it inside of itself. And considering that this slicer is a child of a room node, this means that it can be disabled when not needed. So now the levels should have much better performance. Although the problem can still be felt in big rooms, it's definitely better than doing nothing about it. Another thing that needed to be improved was the checkpoint system. Before, it was pretty unstable and prone to crashing, especially the more you died and the further you went into the level. So the first thing I did was to disable saving trash, stuff like debris, decals, corpses and giblets, since this is what was causing all that instability. I decided to do that after I played The Last of Us Remastered on PC, and noticed that even this big-ass AAA game doesn't bother with saving the miscellaneous trash. When I reload the save, the corpses just disappear. Then I decided to implement some async functionality to the checkpoint system. Before, the game would noticeably freeze every time you reached the checkpoint, because it was reading a shit ton of data and waiting for every step to finish before starting a new one. And only once all the steps were processed, it would resume the game. So I remade it in a way where for every save step, a separate thread gets launched, the task of getting and returning the required data. And as a finishing touch, I added back the ability to continue the game from the last checkpoint, instead of starting it over. Plus some buttons in the pause menu to restart from the beginning of a level or again from the last checkpoint. Although I will answer one question right away, no, this game will not have a save system like in Half-Life or any other old game where you can save and load at any point. Giving the player the ability to save mid-fight would be very unstable and will most likely result in crashes upon trying to load back. The MDT save system will be more akin to the Binding of Isaac, for example, where you will have a couple save slots, each containing their own progression of the game. This decision is mostly based on the game having an additional arena game mode, so having an ability to go back in time on your progress and trying to sync that with the arena would be very confusing and convoluted. While on the topic of answering questions, I'ma go over some frequently asked ones. And the most popular one is, will this game be on mobile? Mobile, please! Fuck no, not possible. It already struggles to run on the PC, besides the control scheme will not work here. I already have a lot of buttons bound. Go get a job and get yourself a PC. It will never release on mobile. The second one is, will it release on Linux or Mac? Linux, most likely yeah, I just don't care about it right now and will come back to it when I will start working on releasing the game on Steam. As for Mac, most likely no. I don't own any Apple products, nor am I looking forward to buying one. Besides, I heard that it's a pretty annoying process that involves requesting API keys and whatnot. Just too much hassle for a very small percentage of users. And to make sure you heard me right, yes, it will release on Steam. The plan is to finish the first chapter, then go over the entire game and polish and remake a lot of stuff, like the visual part of the levels. Currently they are pretty much dev-textured grey boxes. The visuals are very far from being finished. And then, once that's done, the game will be released on Steam, under a price of course. But there will be a free demo, which will contain the entirety of the first chapter. And the demo will not receive any new content after that, besides some bug fixes maybe. The next one is, will there be a level editor? No, but it will support custom levels and other mods. There's no point in making one, since it's not as simple as placing blocks in a Geometry Dash level editor. There's a lot that goes into making a level, and at that point, it will be just easier for a modder to download Godot, unpack the game files, and make their level in the same way I do. I will make a tutorial on modding and on custom levels in the future, once I finish working on mod support. And now for something truly new, cutscene system. The animation itself was always going to be the easy part. The difficulty actually comes from the transition in and out of the cutscene, but I figured it out in a day. When the player starts a cutscene, it first saves the transform data of all of the player's bones, plus the camera's transform and additional parameters. Then it gets the same data but from very first keys of the animation. After that, the track nodes get lured from the initial position to the start of an animation. And then the same thing happens for transitioning out of the cutscene but in reverse. But what does this thing use for? Well, for this. Again, the visuals of this growth system are not final, but what it does is give you the first movement augmentation, a simple double jump. The inspiration for this dust cloud comes from Destiny 2 Hunter's Double Jump, which is the only class I've ever played. This marks the start of new content that I was always excited for, and we will see more and more gameplay changing stuff like this in the near future. This first chapter, the arena mode, the double jumps, the upcoming shop system and a proper user interface with a proper HUD, all of this is just the tutorial, just the core of the game. Only one thing beats this in terms of excitement I feel for it, that being the story. I really want to start implementing dialogues and a second main character, but that stuff is only supposed to come right after the first chapter, as in after the Steam release, as in not anytime soon, for story reasons. Speaking of new content, we get a new enemy, and no, it's not another humanoid or a stationary turret, this is a spider robot. It moves, it shoots, it dies. Fun fact, it doesn't actually walk or have any gravity applied to it, it literally flies around, but it's coded to have its body be at a certain distance off the ground. The legs are purely IK based and clip through tiles all the fucking time. This is another reason for why I will wait for 4.5 to release before posting this video, as I did test the spider in a room that was just a single collision shape, and it was working as intended, no clipping legs, no nothing. In the future, I plan on making more variants of this enemy. For example, an artillery spider. He would charge a single powerful shot, but you will be able to reflect his projectile if you time it correctly. With this, I also had to introduce the system of factions and faction fighting, so that the spider could fight humanoids and you at the same time. Humanoids' code has been rewritten in some parts to make them be able to have any entity as their target, besides just the player. This does mean that humanoids can fight each other, although pretty wonky. This will definitely be used in some future chapters. There's a faction fight test level in the level selection tab. You can check it out to see humanoids fight each other. Garry's Mod Rebels vs Combine type shit. All of this, except for the EMP grenade, is present in the new level. Here I used a lot of level 3 visuals that I made some time ago, and never used outside of the starting area of the very first level. It of course does have some secrets for those who are willing to search, and also packs a cool-ass soundtrack. Go check it out and leave a review, either in a Google form or in my Discord server. As I said before, this is just the beginning. There's exponentially more interesting stuff to come, and if you wanna support me, at the very least you can tell YouTube that I'm worth watching, and at most you can subscribe to my Boosty. Let me give you an example of what's about to come in the next level. You will finally get a proper HUD, a so-called AETY system, or in full Anti-Everything U. It's a ghost-made thing. This means that we will finally have a proper crosshair, a health bar above enemies, a map, an inventory management tab, and much more. I also want to let you know that we have a tradition over at VDog, launching Minecraft SMPs when I upload a new devlog. Previously we had a server where the idea was that it was on the Earth mod, which was pretty cool, but this time we are doing a modded SMP, centered around the Create mode. But don't worry, it won't be just factory swap, we'll give you enough reasons to interact with each other and even fight. So if you wanna play, then for a billionth time, join our Discord server. The SMP will only last for a single month and will start September. Big thanks to all my Boosty supporters: Iron Gregory, 38 Forger, Taking Name, Gresh11, Joker17, I Can't Stop Suffer, Delirious Azazel, Pavel Sapegin, Petros Jacobs, Liv176, Dick Sucker. Now it's time for me to return to my dev cave and do the regular 3 supporter builds, 1 devlog cycle all over. We will definitely meet again.